Hi, this is Kimberly Reuter, business advisor and supply chain expert, and welcome back to my podcast, Supply Chain Wake Up. And we are back with the fabulous Alicia for our monthly dose of the inner edge. And today, Alicia is going to talk to us about what is it for to do, us not to do, what are we responsible for? And Alicia's going to walk us through it. Welcome back, Alicia. Happy to have you.
Oh, thanks. I look forward to these monthly chats. And they're all timely, right?
They are, because I'm always struggling with whatever. I strongly believe for my audience that Alicia and I have this psychic connection that nobody knows about because she's always talking about whatever is on my mind. So thank you for that. So tell us more. What are we going to talk about?
It's funny you remind me. I'm sorry, this is an off thing, but Janet, she always says, I live rent free in her head. First, I wasn't sure how to take that. Now I know.
Good stuff. All right. So tell us more, Alicia. What are we supposed to do or not do?
So it has different kind of variations to it in my mind. The first place I want to go is the distinction between someone who is a manager and someone who is at a leadership level.
Yeah.
And oftentimes that's a really different transition for someone because the manager is still used to doing stuff with a focus on tasks, things that I have to do or have to get done. But a leader has a completely different role. A leader is much more into managing relationships versus tasks, being responsible for the vision and the direction and the strategy of an organization, and then being able to articulate those things and then delegate accordingly to other people. So when I see, especially new leaders, like 1 to 2 years in, and they tell me I'm exhausted, when I ask them to do 2-column lists, I love my 2-column lists. And one is what belongs to me, what only I can do. No one else can do this. Only I can do this. Then in the second column, what someone else can do.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, the first pass of it, they still have a lot of things in only I can do that really don't belong there.
Yes.
But it's a mindset. I'm the only one who can do that. And then it's like, okay, which of these things in this column can we move over to the second column? And do you have people you trust, their competency, their experience, or whatever, to delegate that to? This is why I say, what's mine to do and what's mine not to do.
Yes. And I think, as you know, I've gone from manager to leader to bigger leader to bigger leader to bigger leader. And the higher you go, the less you actually do from a tactical perspective, right?
Right.
It's more vision, long-term thinking. Where are we going to be in 3 years, 5 years, 6 years? Less about what task has to be done today. And I see a lot of people struggle with that transition.
Right. And so a really important piece of this is communication and how you communicate. So if you're communicating in a way that people around you do not understand what your desired result is, or don't understand the instructions that you're giving them, or the direction that you're going, or the vision that you're proposing, then it's going to be really difficult.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we work on in that kind of transition from manager to leader or kind of new leader is the communication skills that are needed to be able to delegate and get a satisfactory result.
Yeah.
Not because they've done something wrong, but because you haven't articulated it well enough.
Correctly.
And it's not as understood.
Yes. And I think one of the challenges I see with people who are transitioning from manager to leader is that they tend to try to tell people how to do something versus focusing on the outcome. And sometimes you do have to do a how, like I need to teach you how to do this. There is power in letting the person figure it out on their own. If you set I need X outcome by X date, call me if you need help. That's a different message than you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. I want it all done tomorrow. Then you have to check in with me and I got to see it before anybody else sees it. That's manager speak. Leader speak is I need X by X date. Call me if you have questions.
Right. Or what piece do you need me to take, or
Can I help you?
maybe it, or who do you need me to talk to facilitate this?
Yeah.
But it's not the doing piece.
Yes. Not the dictating piece. That's the other piece. Yeah. I see so many people, I call them seagull managers because they fly high, they have nothing to do with what you're doing, and they come in and they shit all over everything, and then they leave. And they tell you everything they were doing wrong. They tell you how you have to do it. Like they dictate everything, and then they fly off. I think those are the worst kind. But I think those are to me are leaders who are badly transitioning from manager to leader, right? Because they haven't quite let go of that. I got to tell you how to do it. And so they come in and they swoop in.
Yeah. One of the things that I found really valuable, I mean, I'm not really assessment prone, to tell you the truth. I don't. I'm not, credentialed in 1,000 assessments. I take assessments with a grain of salt. They're not the truth. They're just data. But there is an assessment I used to use, the leadership circle assessment, which is a real pure leadership, 18 competencies that are proven by research to be the competencies for the best leader. And so if you're a leader that's been in a position like even 1-2 years or more, you can't fix what you don't know.
Yes.
And that's why a 360 assessment like the leadership circle is so valuable, because it allows people to give you feedback in a way that is gettable. Again, depending on who's debriefing, you have to be a qualified TLC coach to brief it. But then and to actually see, where am I falling short? And the other thing it does is it not only measures others' perception of you, but your own perception of yourself. And inevitably, how you perceive yourself and how others perceive you can be very different.
They can be very different. And not always in a bad way, by the way. Sometimes it's in a good way.
Second,
A lot
of humility.
Yeah. A lot of it, I know I've gone through them and I hate them. I think everybody does. Nobody wants a 360 review. And the feedback was always kind of surprising to me. Like, I always thought it would be like, she's mean and I hate her and she's nasty and she cusses all the time and she tells us what to do. And some of the feedback could be that. But a lot of the feedback was she challenges us. She pushes us. She stands up for us. That was the feedback. So that's what you're going for, right? You're going for people who feel empowered.
Right. And not only that, but going back to the original question, what's mine and what's not mine, it shows up because of the kinds of competencies. And this particular assessment is divided in quadrants, but like the left and right side, the right side is the right side is task oriented and the left side is relationship oriented. And if you're skewing way on the task side, it doesn't mean that you're not responsible for some tasks, but if you're skewing way over and your relationship skills are not as high as they should be, it just points to you're in a different role.
Yeah.
And these are things that belong to you. And these are things that really don't belong to you. And you have to find a way to delegate them to people who are competent. So again, you have to look at, who do you have around you? I'm always saying, hire people that are smarter than you are.
Oh, yes. All of them. Please.
Yeah.
Easier, let me tell you.
Yeah, it does. And you can still mentor them, but like there's a lot of, and the other thing's really interesting is when a younger manager has an older person, older than them. I'm not saying old, I'm not making that, but like older than they are, and they're trying to manage someone who's older than they are. That's a really interesting dynamic, and it requires some real authenticity and some honesty and some good communication skills to do that kind of thing. And I've been seeing that more and more, which is interesting to me. And I wanted to address something else because you said it at the very beginning and I didn't want to forget. So we're talking right now of leadership in organizations. But what happens if you're an entrepreneur?
Oh, yeah, exactly. Great question. But if you're still working with people in some capacity. Yeah.
Right. So you might, your organization or your small business might not have 50, 1,000 employees or whatever. You might have 1 or 2 employees, or you might have 1 or 2 contractors, right? Independent contractors. Because a lot of small consultancies and such service organizations don't have employees. They have independent contractors.
Yeah.
But the communication skills and the ability to be able to define the desired result is similar. The danger for an entrepreneur, I think it's even worse, is because especially if you've kind of bootstrapped your business, which a lot of people do, you're used to being all things.
Yes.
When you start your business, you're used to being, the CEO and the one who goes
and the accountant. Yeah. Sales, you're doing it all. You're chasing down payments.
Yeah. And so that's a really interesting thing. So it's a kind of dance between like growing and having enough income to be able to have support people around you, be it employees or contractors. But it becomes even more critical, otherwise you're going to burn yourself out, more critical to understand what is it that I should focus in on in my business and what is not mine, at least not now, not yet,
Yes.
right? And it takes a lot of patience sometimes and a lot of real strategic thinking about like first this, then this, so that you can see the path a little more clearly. But you don't have to go from A to Z in a week.
Yes. It takes time. And I think that's a really good point about it as well, is that, and if you are an entrepreneur, that is your job, is to look into the future. Like, you do have to have that ability to say, where do I want to be in 3 years? Because you won't get there. If you don't have that skill, if that is a do not for you, then you need to find someone who do, because that will definitely kill you. But I want to go back to something, Alicia, that you mentioned a couple minutes ago about mentoring and leading someone older than yourself, or someone with more experience. Let's put it in experience, right? Sometimes it shows up in age, because really what we're talking about is experience. Likely the person who is under you, who is in numeric age-wise older you, probably also has a ton more experience than you. And it may not be in that particular job they're in, but they have this very, very, very valuable thing called life lessons. And so when one of my jobs, I had a woman who worked for me named Jeannie, and I nicknamed her Mama Jeannie. She was the oldest on the team. She had been with the company the longest. She was relatively new to technology, but she was my rock. And when I was in my head, or I couldn't get something done, or the team was struggling, it was Mama Jeannie that we went to and said, okay, this is what's happened. I can't get my head around it, or I can't get it out of my head, or whatever's going on, or I don't understand how that team works. You've been here for 30 years. Do you understand? And inevitably, she'd be like, oh, that's Becky. Okay, so this is what's going on with Becky. Becky had da 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 and da da yeah, and it became around that relationship, right? Where it was like, okay, now Mama Jeannie has helped me figure out how to get past this, because she has life experience. She's not as much of a hothead as I am, because she's older. She knows these people. She has relationships with them. She understands how the company moves. Like, she understands all these things. She didn't necessarily have deep experience in technology like I did, but I would not have been successful there without her.
Yeah, there are people who have what's called tacit knowledge. And that's what you're referring to with this person, Jeannie. Like, she's been in the organization. She knows all the unspoken rules.
Yeah, she did. And she knew how to navigate them, how to help me navigate them.
Relationship manager.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
she's my
think
relationship manager.
it makes her feel valued, which I think is really, really important. But it also makes the team see her value
Yes.
because you're relying on her and you're respecting her.
Yeah. And respecting her knowledge, even though she was not a tech professional, or she was becoming a tech professional at that point.
Yeah. I mean, I think, teams need to be diverse and have different strengths. And you don't want everybody having the same strength. You don't want everybody having the same thinking process. This is why diversity in teams is so very critical to like having a good team. Yes, you're going to have conflict, but it can be constructive conflict if the leader of that team manages it well.
Yes. Yes. And let's talk a little bit about that too, because conflict can be healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Conflict doesn't shy away from that.
Yeah. If conflict doesn't have to be, I think there has to be integrity in the conflict, if you will. In other words, if there's conflict, the person in charge really needs to know how to manage it so it's constructive. So that people, probably the most important thing is that everybody feels heard. You don't have to agree.
Right.
Maybe you're never going to all agree, but you have to build some consensus and you have to make sure that people are heard.
Yeah.
And sometimes that conflict generates ideas that would never have occurred if you hadn't gotten into that conversation. But it means that everybody feeds their best ideas into it. And sometimes there is conflict and disagreement, obviously.
Yeah. And I find that actually healthy, because I think the best products come out of that. Like, I was just working with a client. We were prototyping a new product, right? I felt like it should go this way. He felt like we should cut it in half and sell it as 2-part instead of a 1-part. And we went back and forth on it. And ultimately, he was right, because of the way the product moves and acts when you use it. And that if you don't use all of it in one use, the second part of it could go bad. By splitting it in two, we made it better for the customer. But that went round and round for a while. I'm gonna be honest, because that was like, no,
Boy, you are sure it did.
yeah, two, one. But once we got past that and understood that it was better for the customer if we did it in two, it made all that difference. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I think so.
conflict.
Right. But you've heard me say this. I have this expression. You have to go to the it. Remember my saying that? And the it is not you or me. The it is the desired result.
Yes.
And
We
so if
need
you
this
your conversation around that, the whatever the it is, but like your desired result, one, you stay away from like personal stuff. And like you said, you realized it was good for the customer. That was the it.
That was the it. The it was that the how I was thinking about it wasn't optimized for the customer. But in my head, it was perfect. So that's
Right.
it. So yeah. But yeah, don't be afraid of conflict. Have conflict. So many people run away from that and they don't get any good feedback because they don't want to hear it.
Of course.
Yeah.
So the third aspect of this question that I want to address, I think is I'm just seeing a lot with small businesses and entrepreneurs. When we think about what's mine and what's not mine, I go to like some of the people I've been either working with or talking to because of the state of the economy, especially in the United States. People are saying, do I pivot?
Yeah.
Should I change what I offer? Should I change my marketing? Should I change almost like, should I change who I am?
No.
Right. Yeah. No. And so it's a really delicate balance to try to decide where you're going to go, what you're going to do, or how you're going to pivot if that's it. But I just want to state that the people that come to you because of you and because of what you stand for and because of their experience with you. And those are the things that shouldn't change. Now, do you want to make different offers or do you want to broaden your market or any of that? Okay, that's just strategic decision making.
Yeah.
But, when I see people trying to be something they're not because they're doing it out of fear and scarcity, that's the problem. And it might be a short-term fix.
Yeah.
But over the long term, it will cost them themselves, like their own well-being as well. So
Yeah.
I want to bring that kind of like maybe not obvious conversation into it.
Yeah. And so you're absolutely right. And I have seen a lot of this. I've certainly bumped into it. Actually have been struggling personally with, the podcast because people have been trying to push me in a different direction, right? Where they're like, oh no, it needs to look like this or da 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 da. And I resisted, right? It's been very hard for me to be like, no, this is what the podcast is about. But holding that in this environment with everything that's going on is really hard to say, no. This is what it is, and it's what's going to stay. And maybe it doesn't work. Like maybe it doesn't work, but I will know that I did it the way I wanted to do it, and it didn't work. Versus doing a podcast the way someone else wanted to do it and doing it forever.
Yeah, and not feeling like
Yeah.
it's yours, really. That's true to you. It's a difficult time right now. And I think, there are people I know who are changing their offers or looking at maybe not a different audience for their services or products, but maybe additional audiences or additional people to market to. That's all well and good. But what I'm saying is,
Don't
it's the
change.
authenticity piece. It's hard when people are working out of fear and there's so much fear in the environment right now. It's like, now what do I do? Maybe I should do this or I wait. It's like, throwing spaghetti on the wall kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's really, really hard right now for people.
Yeah. In my experience, your experience is that if you aren't authentic with what your offering is, if you do go through this exercise of trying to match the market, trying to be something that you're not going to be, you're not going to have success. You will probably have some short-term success, but you will not have that long-term success because you can't sustain it.
No, you can't. You can't. There is something I'll notice on my Sophia Associates Inc. website. That's the URL, Sophia Associates. There is a download called the 5 Essential Leadership Questions.
Mm-hmm.
And those questions around who are you? What do you stand for? Why does it matter? If people on your podcast want to go to the website, it's a free download. But I think those questions are really imperative right now. Maybe it's a good time to evaluate the answers to those questions for yourself because, we all evolve too. Things that that were working for me or that I wanted to do years ago, I have no interest in right now.
Yeah.
You know, a bad thing or good thing. It's just I'm different. I have a different set of priorities and such. You know,
Experiences now.
different experiences and I want different results. So downloading the 5 essential leadership questions, and I always say if you have a team, do it as an individual, but do it with your team as well, and make sure you're all on the same page
Yeah.
about those questions.
It helps a lot. It helps a lot. It really does. Communication, you talked a little bit about communication. I want to talk about that just a little bit more because that is so key for making that transition from manager to leader, from just growing in yourself, just in general, being able to lead a sustainable life, right? That you're not burned out constantly, either personally or professionally. So let's talk a little bit about communication before we wrap up today.
Yeah, so I think the very first thing is know what you want to say. I know that sounds terribly obvious. But it's true. You have to know what you want to say.
It's true. And in order to know what let's back that up a little bit because before you can know what you have to say, you have to know what you stand for and you have to know what you're doing, right? Or why you're doing it.
Why? What's your why?
Yeah. Then you can communicate the rest of it. But you're very right. I can't tell you how many people I've seen like start an argument or be in a meeting or something and like make a bold statement and you're like, is that really where you're gonna go? You're gonna die on that hill? Like that? And they don't because they really didn't think it all the way through.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is also, I think that people, when they get nervous, they're not concise, especially when, oh, I tell you, and you go on and on and on, it completely dilutes the message, right? And a lot of it is nervousness and stuff. And that's why I go back to know what you want to say. I actually have clients script things out. And of course, I'm a writer, so I'm actually lethal about this.
Mhm.
They script them out, and then I'm like, get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that. Because then it's not essential to the message that you're trying to convey. And then people don't know what you actually want.
Because you went on for 8.5 minutes when it was a 30-second communication. It was a sound bite. And they went on and on and on. The other thing that happens, we call that digging the hole in the corporate world. You start digging and you'll hear people say, put down the shovel, put down the shovel. Because they just keep talking, right? Because they're nervous. They got caught out on something. Let me let you all in on a little secret. The more you talk, the more they trip you up.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're giving them ammo. Just shed it.
Yeah. I know. I've sat there and gone,
Shh, stop talking. Give it up. You already lost. Done. Mistake.
You lost after the second sentence. You didn't notice. It's true. It is. And again, I work a lot. I mean, communication is a really big deal for me.
Yeah.
But also,
yeah. And I have the opposite issue. My issue is that I undercommunicate because I'm like, do it.
yeah.
Why are you so
what is it that you want me to do?
So I have learned that what helps a lot for me in communication is that I have learned over the years is to lead with the why. I would like for us to think about this new product offering. Here's why.
Right.
So-and-so's doing it, so-and-so's doing it, nobody's doing it. We think there's customer demand, whatever it is. But you got to tell the people the why. I had this happen the other day. I asked somebody to overnight something for me, and they're like, but it's so expensive. And I was, I kind of lost my mind a little bit for a minute. But then I had to explain to them that, look, we're going to pay the extra money for this because I need somebody else to do something on the other end. And then they're going to send it back, and we're going to try to all get this done in 1 week. And if we don't do that this way, it's going to go to next week. And then we didn't have a problem. But we were fighting over $124 there for a minute.
Yeah, I know it's how that happens. But like, yeah, your why is important.
The why.
It's like, again, like go to the it. What's the it?
Yeah, what's the it? Yeah, exactly. This wasn't because I wanted overnight. It's because it had to happen to make sure this going through. So yes, very good. Glad we talked about communication because I think that is the biggest missing link.
Yeah, it is. Two things that I think individuals, but also organizations do poorly is communicate and give feedback.
Yeah.
They're just not really good. And, it's funny because living in different countries and now I speak, I think 4 languages now, I notice how lazy Americans are with their English. Other countries
very lazy with our English. Very lazy. Yeah.
It is lazy. There's kind of like a laziness to it or like always shortcutting things. I even said to my son who, he texts me and he sends me emojis. Emojis are not a conversation. I'm sorry.
Type a word.
The type. Call your mother.
Yeah.
Conversation. For God.
Sit.
My son.
Heard it on the podcast. Call your mother.
Call your mother.
Alicia, as always, thank you for being here and sharing your amazing insights on how to navigate this life and giving us the inner edge. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. See you next month.